Friday, and it's the day after Thanksgiving. And today's topic is what is today's topic? Um, I think I've forgotten. Navigating our emotions and some tools to make life a little bit easier as we go through the ebbs and flows of different emotional tides. But before we get started, let's take a minute to get settled in. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold it and imagine clean, crisp oxygen just flooding your lungs and flowing into your bloodstream and nourishing all your cells and all your organs and bringing vitality and health as you exhale any tension, any stress. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose. Hold it. And this time, imagine sparkling white light lighting you up, electrifying every molecule, every electron, energizing and bringing brilliance and vitality and connecting you with the world beyond. And now let's just gently press our palms together. Softly rub your fingers against your palms. Feel the tingling and the tickling and the deliciousness of that sensation. And bring yourselves present right here, right now. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's so good to be here with you. And wow. So navigating emotions. It was yesterday, and I think that probably I'm not alone, but yesterday was a day filled with all different kinds of emotions. And um, I know that this is such an interesting time, such an interesting time. And so when I know that lots and lots of people are experiencing depression and loneliness and anxiety. And one of the things about emotions and emotional states is that we often tend to generalize. So, for instance, welcome, Babu Parveen Singh. Open your inner eyes. I love it. That's what we're here for. So let's talk about emotion and navigating what we would oftentimes consider negative emotions. Good morning, Isabel. Welcome, welcome. So when people say that they're depressed, what happens, and this is, please know that I have had great experiences with being depressed in my life, or extensive experiences. And so, what I notice, and I'm going to speak actually of yesterday for me, there were tears. There were tears that just arose, no incident provoking them, no particular reason, but there were tears. And so here, there's a key here that's really important, because noticing that there were tears, the inclination for me was to say, well, what am I sad about? And to make a story up about the fact that this emotion was arising in me. And what instead I allowed myself to do is to recognize the conversation and to allow the tears. And as I allowed the tears, they passed. And I didn't have to make a story about it. And I didn't have to say, I'm sad. What I was feeling sad in that moment, but I didn't have to say, I am sad. There's a distinction between saying, I am depressed and I am sad and I am angry and I am anxious. In There's a distinction between all of those declarations and saying, I feel sad, I feel sadness, I feel anger, I feel joy, I feel excited, I feel anxious, because we are not our feelings, we have the experience of them. And these feelings are surges of energy. So, what I noticed in this experience where I allowed myself to feel the tears, to have the tears, and to tune into what was the feeling without even naming it. I didn't actually name it as sadness. I said I felt tears. Um, as I allowed myself to experience it, I also noticed when that wave lifted. And this is a really critical piece for those of us who have had challenges with depression, is that we tend to feel that we're always in that feeling, that we're always sad, or that we're always anxious, and or that we're always feeling sadness or always feeling anxious. And the truth is that those feelings come in ebbs and flows. The likelihood is that we tend to notice them when we're sad, feeling sad. We tend to notice when we're feeling sad more than we tend to notice when we're engaged in something. When we're engaged in something, our attention is focused on that something. Good morning, Dido. Welcome, welcome. And welcome to everybody else who's here. So we're talking about navigating emotions and understanding that by naming them, well, first of all, by creating them as identities, like I am sad, that is creating a different level of experience from saying I am feeling sadness or I am feeling tears arising. Um, and when we just allow ourselves to feel those feelings without having to make up a whole story about it, because I could have made up a story. I could have said, well, I'm sad because of this, 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 and this. And what happens with that is that it tends to embed those feelings. Now, at the same time, it can be useful to recognize what kinds of triggers are going on to trigger an experience of a certain emotion or reaction. So that can be helpful to give ourselves insight into what our own mechanics are. The thing is that it's important, if you're going to look at things that way, by looking for, well, what triggered me to feel this way, to look at the incident as an exploration, not as a truth. So sometimes we'll feel sadness because somebody said something to us and we respond to them saying that, whatever they said, with a reaction of being sad. Well, what we get to, or feeling sadness, what we get to look at is, what's the dynamic of that? What were we wanting that was being denied? Or what were we expecting that, uh, what expectation wasn't met? Or what story are we telling ourselves? What is the loss that we're feeling? Um, what what's going on internally that's generating that sadness? And the thing is, sometimes that's useful because it lets us see our own dynamic. But the truth is that the emotion is the emotion and the story is the story. And if we can separate the two, then you can use the story to gain greater insight into how to rework your inner terrain, and experiencing the emotion as the emotion itself really allows the energy of that emotion to move. So, for instance, I can be feeling sad and then feel into that sadness and just allow myself to be present to it without resisting it. So that's another thing, is I shouldn't feel the feelings I'm feeling. So that's something that a lot of us do. I feel angry and I shouldn't be feeling angry, or I shouldn't be feeling jealous, or I shouldn't be whatever the shoulds are. And when we should ourselves, then what happens is we're more deeply embedding the thing that we are judging and resisting. We're actually resisting that experience. So, hello, Irma. Welcome, welcome. I'm really glad to have you here. So, one of the things about these emotions and determining that we should feel a different way, or we should be experiencing things differently, is the question you might want to ask yourself if you find yourself doing that is, who says so? Who says I should feel differently? Who says that I should be being a different way? And actually, as you have enough awareness to ask yourself those questions, maybe you can just dissolve the questions entirely and just recognize, at this moment, that's how I'm feeling. And as I said, I had tears yesterday, and there was nothing that provoked those tears, but I was feeling sadness. So I allowed myself to feel it. I allowed myself to recognize the thoughts that were going on in my mind and to be alert to them. And then I was able, because I was being present, because I was being aware and I wasn't judging, I was just allowing those feelings to be, I could recognize when they passed and when there was actually a shift of energy. And there was nothing that happened to provoke the shift of energy either. It just was as if a tide moved through. It was just as if the feelings ebbed and flowed, and the experience shifted. And so when we become aware of a state that we're in, there's an art, I think, to being able to recognize the experience and not have to judge it or make up a story about it. So I'm feeling this way, but I should be feeling that way. Or I'm not feeling a feeling I should be feeling. There are all these ideas about comparison. And what I notice is that it's the desire, the wanting, the longing for something else that helps to entrench our suffering. It's the source of suffering, is desiring things to be other than they are. So being present in what is the ultimate antidote for suffering. To just be present, because the suffering comes in when we make a story about where we are. So Irma says, sometimes feeling the feelings last so long that I run away. I just want the feelings to go away, and it feels like I keep on feeling it over and over. So the thing, I understand that it feels like it lasts so long. The thing is that even depression, even sadness, even anxiety is not every second. It may be 5 minutes and 2 seconds not. It might be 5 minutes and I forget for a couple minutes to be noticing that I'm sad. and I'm feeling sad. And in those moments that I forget to be noticing that I'm feeling sad, I'm actually not feeling sad. Do you find that, Irma? That when you put your attention, it's not that it's constant. It's not constant. It comes and it goes. And the thing is that I really believe that we just tend to pay attention when we feel the feeling periodically, like we feel the sadness. So we every time we notice the sadness, we tend to think that it's persistent throughout that whole time. But the thing is that there were moments when we are not immersed in that experience, and those moments count. And I think that we get to find a way to bring those moments to our awareness. And Irma says, what's constant is my attention to the ugly. And I don't agree with you, Irma. I know that that's actually not true. I know you, and I know that that's not constant. It's a theme, it's a repeating pattern, but it is absolutely not constant. And so what I want you to notice is you're speaking, like what we are invoking as the themes and as the fabric of our lives, what our language is invoking, and what our awareness of ourselves are. So by saying what's constant is my attention to the ugly, that's actually invalidating the other amazing things you put your attention to. And I know you, and what I know is that you put your attention very often to possibility. You put your attention very often to creativity. It's just that when you put your attention to the ugly, it feels so much bigger, and it feels more present for you. But there are many times when you have told me that you don't feel the feelings, that there are times when you feel anxious, there are times when you feel excitement. So I hear you saying, okay, this is for everyone. What we declare for ourselves helps to bring that declaration into existence. And when we notice ourselves, so the key part here is noticing ourselves, but when we notice ourselves focusing, for instance, on our sadness, we have the option to shift our relationship with that thing that we're putting our attention to. So there are numbers of ways of dealing with these dynamics, and they all have their place. Sometimes the thing is to dive into the experience of the feeling itself and to be present to the feeling and to just be with it until it moves, and to be with it without judgment, without a whole story about it, to be with the experience of it. Okay? Because it is our conversation that often generates that feeling. So if we can presence ourselves to the physicalness of it without all the peripheral stuff, it gives it an ability to move that experience. Another thing that we can do is to be alert to our conversation about it. Now, the thing is that we often get tied into the conversation and carried away with it, and then in that conversation that can exacerbate the feeling. So we can be having this whole dialogue going that is deepening the feeling. Plus, we can add resistance on top of that. That is where we're trying to tell ourselves that we shouldn't be feeling the way we're feeling, or judging ourselves for feeling the way we're feeling, which compounds the whole thing. So if we can recognize the things that we're saying to ourselves, if we can recognize the internal conversation without getting sucked into believing it, then that internal conversation can be very educational to expose the dynamic that we have going on inside that's generating our experience. So that's another way to navigate these emotions. Another way to navigate the emotions that could be useful from time to time is to distract yourself, to just redirect your attention in another direction. So here I am feeling all these feelings, having all these conversations. What can I do? Maybe actually do instead that will refocus me, that will allow me to put my energy elsewhere for a break. You know, another thing that we can do to navigate these emotions is to do a deliberate change of state, which is kind of what I was just talking about. But there are all kinds of ways to do that. Like we can jump up and down. We can go do something that that is sensual. Like you could take a cold shower, and that will like jolt you out of the state that you're in potentially. You can smile. Just how about that? And this is an interesting thing. Smiling, you cannot feel depressed and smile at the same time. You just can't. And that's because physiology goes with your emotion. So if you smile, if you laugh for no reason at all, if you just laugh, that can change the state, the emotional state that you're in. If you take a superhero pose, you know, you can't really feel depressed in a superhero pose. And so the thing is that if you can do these things that shift your state, then you can't say that I am as a beingness depressed, because there are moments when you may feel depressed. But first of all, it's not who you are. Second of all, there are moments when you don't feel depressed. And so maybe there are activities that you can do that can help you shift that emotional state. Exercise is an amazing thing to help shift that emotional state. Meditation is an incredible thing to help presence yourself. So if you're feeling emotionally vulnerable or sad, meditating may help you by calming your body and centering yourself. And that may be a positive thing. It also may be something that just gives you, turns up the volume on your internal dialogue. And if that's the case, maybe there's some other kind of activity that you can do that will help to change your physiology. Like I said, exercise can help for a lot of people. Isabel, thank you so much for that. So Isabel says, look for something to be grateful for around you. So I remember at one point I was so depressed. I felt so depressed for so long that, you know, I was crying a lot. And I've said this a bunch of times, but I remember very vividly crying in the shower and singing, because singing would shift my frequency even just a little bit. So the idea is that if we're navigating, um, so I'm sorry, I was going to be talking about gratitude. So I also, in singing, I have this gratitude song that I made up to presence me to being grateful. And so I don't, I'm, I apologize for my singing ahead of time, but I'm going to share it with you because it became kind of a mantra for me, and it was really helpful. Even if I wasn't feeling it, I was able to be thinking it and raising my frequency by singing it. So it was, um, I'm so grateful. 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 And I would just sing it and sing it and sing it. And even if I was crying in the shower, even if I couldn't find the feeling in my body, and we can use that to bring up our energy, and I would sing it out loud sometimes, and uh, march around and allow myself to find that energy, to elevate that energy. And so try it, see if it's something that works for you. Maybe make your own mantra, your own call to a higher frequency, a higher experience of energy. So a new anthem. There you go. That was the word I was looking for, Irma. Thank you. I was looking for the word anthem. So yeah, and honestly, it saved me because what I would be putting my attention on was that song and just saying it over and over and over and singing it over and over and over as I was walking, as I was doing things, as I was waking up, as I was going to bed. And ultimately it supported me in shifting my experience. And we can be grateful for all the challenges we have. We can be grateful for so many things, and we can be grateful for what we see, what we feel, what we taste, what we smell, what we hear. Very simple things. It's the simplest things that what, and we can be grateful that we can eliminate properly. We can be grateful for the sustenance that we have. We can be grateful for, we can really presence ourselves to gratitude for everything. And the perfect way to end the conversation for today is in gratitude. Right after Thanksgiving, hopefully we're more and more present to what there is for us to experience gratitude for. Gratitude for breath, gratitude for life, gratitude for whatever degree of health we have. There's so much. And with that, I'm going to say how grateful I am to you and to you joining me and for having this time together. And on that note, I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I'm here. I go live on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page every weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, and it's Friday. So I want to wish you a wonderful weekend of elevated emotion and appreciation. And please enjoy the other programming on Enlightened World Network. And I hope to see you again here next week. So lots and lots of love.